I adore you. You my love. Now and forever. Ever love you more. You're the only one that I adore. I adore you. I adore you. My love. You my love. You are the wind, I believe. Just breathe, I'm bound to thee. For truly I am honored to be with you, love. Like the sun, your aura glows. Just smile and I'll flow to reveal my heart and soul is yours forevermore. I promise you all of my love, for you are the one I adore. Now and forever, ever love you more. You're the only one that I live for. I adore you. I adore you. My love. You my love. Now and forever, ever love you more. The one I live for. I adore you, yeah. My love, I promise you I'll never leave. Be right there in time of need. Sacrifice all of me to set you free, baby. When you cry, I'll cry with you. If it takes your life, I'll die with you. You mean the world to me. You are my everything. I promise you all of my love. For you are the one I adore. Yes, you are, yeah. No matter what I do, who I see, you're in me, yeah. And I'll always love you, yes I do. I adore you. I adore you. I adore you. Yes I do. I hope you know. I hope you know. I love you so. Love you, I adore you. You are my everything. I adore you. Yeah.
What's up, guys? You got DJ OG1, the new Portland. What that hashtag and that movement should be about is love at the end of the day. Now, how that love is carried out is going to mean different things for different people, but at the very core, it should be about love, a new movement, and how we treat each other. How we treat each other in business, how we treat each other in person, how we treat each other in relationships. It should be at the foundation about love. That's what it should be about, the new Portland. Because if it's not about love, then it's about agendas. And when it comes to agendas, then that means it's all about self. And the only self that should be a part of this love is love for yourself. That self-love, that's where it's got to start. If you don't love yourself, it's going to be very hard to be able to express that love in any shape, form, or fashion to anybody else. So the new Portland should be all about love. That's the movement I'm about. Let's go.
All right, good evening, everybody. How y'all doing? Man, y'all came out tonight. Y'all look beautiful. First of all, my name is Ace of Spade. I'm from B-Town Media, and I want to say thank you all for coming out tonight to watch this movie called Priced Out. It's about gentrification. However, New Portland is about what happened to the black community after the movie Priced Out. So I want to control the narrative here. I don't want anybody to feel sad and somber. This is going to happen after you get done watching this movie. However, the anger, we want to put that to the side. What we want to do right now is we want to use this opportunity for us to come together as a community, African American people and other alike people who are interested in an urban movement. The urban movement is people who like hip hop, who like R&B, who like jazz, neo soul, things of those genres. And that is the reason why you've been seeing a lot of New Portland. Because we're trying to form a New Portland where it's no longer about the buildings and the communities, but now about respected events. So if people have been asking me, where's the black community? Where's the African American community? Well, we're at respected events in the community. Can't be at everybody's events, of course, but at respected people's events, you will find a plethora of people coming out having a good time. So I want to give a shout out to Sam Thompson, a shout out to Kevin Berry, a shout out to JW Friday, shout out to Joe Bean Keller, and also a special shout out to my brother and best friend, DJ OG1 from the Portland Trailblazers, who has sponsored this event. So thank you very much for that, sir. And also thank you to the Mission Theater. So while you're clapping, let's give it up to Mission Theater as well. So thank you guys for enjoying, I hope you enjoyed the previews of different African American businesses and urban businesses. If you looked at some of the photographs at the end of the commercials, you would notice everyone was not black. If you got some seasoning in your soul, then you are a part of the movement. Even if you don't, you can always add some seasoning to your soul. Am I right? All right, let's enjoy, guys.
By the time I got to Alpine, it was still the center of Oregon's black population. Like most inner-city communities, Alpine had declined since the middle of the century. But crime was beginning to subside.
We had a men's stores along Russell there. Georgia Shoe Repair was there.
On the corner was Lou's Pin Shop. We sold the clothes that we like, you know. You see us every now and then, some yellow pants or purple pants or the shoes that turn up on the end.
Tall Paradise Club. Gate 3 Tavern, I think, was right there. Even the nightclub was right over here.
There were many empty storefronts. It was a vibrant place. It was busy. It was a hopping place.
A wonderful place to be because you saw yourself.
It was All America USA.
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to that. I really do appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Now, the purpose of me showing this particular movie was to help identify what New Portland is. New Portland is each and every single one of us. Talents, gifts that are amazing, that none of us have paid for. So I think it's time for us all to start digging in our pockets of talents and gifts and see what we could offer to the community, what we could offer to our city to make New Portland wonderful. Because leaving the city is not an option for a lot of us. So it's time for us to embrace it. The neighborhood you actually saw on there, it was actually my neighborhood. Me and my wife and my son was affected. Her grandparents was affected. Neighborhood restaurant. Her grandfather was one of the owners of the first black American bank in Portland, Oregon on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, which was called Union Avenue at one point in time. So it meant a lot to me, and a lot of history that was taught to me as a kid, I felt was covered in this particular video. So in the process here, we're going to bring up Cornelius, who is the director of this movie.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you all so much for coming. Thanks to everyone at P-Town Media and to Farnell Newton, who was our music supervisor, a musician who created some music for the film. He was here earlier. I don't know if he's still here. Farnell, you out there? Maybe some of you guys know.
Stores and housing. So as that downtown became more valuable, people wanted to live closer to it. And so, for example, Northwest Portland, this area, began to gentrify in the 80s. Ursula Le Guin, who's a science fiction author, actually wrote a book about the gentrification of Thurman Street in the 1980s. And this was kind of a rundown of white working class area. And Southeast Portland Hawthorne was the next closest neighborhood. And then it just swung around in Northeast because that's where there was a lot of stores and commercial buildings. And so that was kind of a lot of the factors, not all of them, but some of them.
Yeah, I also don't live in Portland, but I live in a rural, a town that is considered rural, that's halfway in between Portland and Salem. And I've noticed a lot of trends that people are moving more and more into our area as the rent and properties are going up in Portland and in Salem as the costs are going up and it seems more economical. My town has been having talks about developing a riverfront now. My concern is that the riverfront is near the part of the city that has typically been where lower income residents are able to rent property. My concern is that if we build up the riverfront, it will attract more people in, and they're going to probably build more housing that will not be affordable. But I'm also concerned that it will then impact the people who are already there. Our rents will start going up, and we're gonna have the same similar patterns as what I'm seeing happening here in Portland, which is one of the reasons why I'm here. So I was just wondering if you have, I've seen a lot of documentaries on big cities, and cities the size of Portland and such, but I haven't really seen as much about how it's then impacting like the towns nearby, and the more rural areas, and if the patterns are similar. So I was wondering if you have any kind of insight into that, and I guess even maybe suggestions for how to grapple with that in that type of setting.
Yeah, great question. So it happens, if the pattern is the same anywhere you go, whether there's usually like a framework that allows other investors to come in and exploit a market opportunity. And that could be because of housing discrimination in the past that kept the values low. Or it could be because you're allowed to evict people and not give them a reason in the state of Portland, Oregon. And you can give me 30 days and say, get out. So all of a sudden, that apartment building, I can double the rent and get everybody out. So I'm gonna take my money that's currently in New York and I'm gonna put it in Portland, Oregon. That's right, it's because there's something unique to the regulations in Oregon that make that opportunity for an investor to come in, swoop in, and exploit the market. So there's always a little, you gotta kind of know the codes and know what's going on in your particular town, so everything's a little different. But there's always an opportunity to exploit the market. And in small towns, you have Aspen, Colorado, Steamboat Springs, you've got Vail, you've got plenty of examples of little tiny towns that were just working class communities that, only millionaires can live there now, right? So the size of the town really doesn't matter. What matters is if capital comes in, or if the government says, we're gonna do something to attract capital, that's when the game changes. And as soon as they do that, people need to get out in front. If I said, well, I'm gonna build a nuclear power plant in your neighborhood, everybody would say, well, that could go really wrong. I think I'm gonna go to that frickin' meeting. And if you do build it here, what do I get? Because this thing could really be bad for me. But we don't have that attitude anymore towards like a big development. Everyone's just like, oh, big development, great. Target's coming in, great. And it's because we've had 40 years of cities declining. So our expectation is now any money coming in is great. But we have to change our attitude and say, hey, a big development, that could be just as dangerous to my community as it could be beneficial. In fact, it may be just a net loss for me. So before that comes in, I gotta tell and get organized, the government, get organized around this thing and say, wait, no, you're not just coming in, or we're not just giving away our community and tax breaks and other incentives on the promise that the crumbs will fall off the developer's table and trickle into our mouths, make hard demands. And we're seeing that more and more around the country, where communities are saying, you can't come in, you can't do this, unless you give us a lot more as a community.
Okay, another question.
Hi, my name is Lori Palmer, and I've been here 55 years. I'm born and raised here. So I first would like to take off my hat to you for even developing that. as I sat here and watched it, I got educated. And so my thing is not so much a question. My thing is this: the African Americans that are in this community have not got the information out to them that all this was changing. I don't know if it's an educational process we need to come up with, but the information is not being poured out to us that we even knew, because I didn't know a lot of this stuff was going on until it hit us. Like, I'm out on 181st now. It was on 162nd. And so I'm going to take this back to some people, and I'm going to start an educational process, because that seems to work more with our African American people. It's like you allow things just to happen, and then when it happened, you mad. Like, I see all the African American, oh, the white people over here that took over. I'm like, excuse me, you didn't do nothing when you had your property. You didn't do nothing when you was over there. Don't get mad at them because they see opportunity, they come in. So now you can't do nothing. You sold your mama's house because they came in and offered you a lot of money. I mean, you gave all that up. So instead of us giving up our power, but giving power back to our community, I'm finna go back and talk to some people that I know in the community and set up some focus groups and set up some time, for us to educate. We need to get this video.
Yeah.
Now, I look at here, it's more white people here than it is black people. There's something wrong with that. They'll come out and get educated, but the black people is not coming out getting educated. So my thing is, and I need some extra support in this room, how can we get this information to the African American people?
I had felt the same way about where's our black people. Kind of piggyback, I didn't get there. You said rent is going down somewhere. Where is that at?
Yeah.
And then I have another question after that. Where is that at?
One of the important things, I've been in Portland since '88, and I've worked in the community quite a bit. And one of the things that I kind of say when I talk, particularly to my people, and when I first saw this film, I actually have kind of seen, I've stayed on Alberta, I've stayed on Deacon, I've stayed, a number of different spots in Northeast Portland, and I watched the transition. But I also watched a community that just kind of laid down. They just kind of laid down and let it happen. A lot of complaining, kind of like what my sister said, we'll complain white people are doing this, but this is affecting poor white people as well. And that's the reality. Here's the difference. We act on things that we value. I'm gonna say that again. We act on things that we value. And one of the things I'm gonna re-emphasize is what my brother Asa was saying about the whole movement of New Portland. In terms of taking over the narrative, we have to now change the dialogue, our everyday dialogue, in a number of different areas. But think about how normal is it to talk about being a change with some of these decisions that the city is making and all those things before it happens. It's not a common dialogue. We'll talk about sports, we'll talk about entertainment, we'll talk about gossip, we'll talk about reality TV, all those things, but when it comes to, voting and not just voting for, okay, it's a good thing to vote, but actually knowing why you're voting. Being very intentional. Oh, I'm voting for this because of this, not because, okay, it already happened. No, because if I don't vote, and I don't use my voice, see, that's the great thing about, voting is that I don't have to be rich in order to vote. That's not a requirement. So one thing you don't have to pay for is your vote. You have to take the time to go vote. You got to take the time to look into why you're voting. There's no excuse today, except that we've kind of, as a collective community, we've become lazy, to be quite frankly. It's very easy to say, they are doing this to us. The city, the government, when the reality is they really work for us. But if we don't tell them what we want, then why should they act on then it's just left up to the powers that be and their agenda. If you don't create a voice for yourself, so specifically with Portland, you have to investigate, find out what's going on, get engaged. Again, it's not about, okay, every week you have to be down at the city and reading the paper every day, but just the resources that he lined up on the website. Spend some time, and then start having some of those dialogues with your children. Because it's going to affect them at some point. Bring some value to those discussions. And I say the same thing about health. We have to start bringing dialogue to each other about, hey, how's your health doing today? Not waiting for somebody to get cancer and then say, oh man, now we got to make a movement. So I'm saying people act on value. We have to change the narrative and start valuing our city enough to care for one another, not just when it affects us, but when it affects others as well. We have to be advocates for each other, which I always come down to the bottom line. If we don't love each other, we're not going to act.
As you guys know, I'm Nikki's daughter. I'm pretty outspoken, and he did get criticism. But one thing I think people always forget is how my mom was, in the first film, was like against affordable housing. And it wasn't that she was against affordable housing, she was against the back stipulations of a lot of it. A lot of the housing was, like you said, in theory it's good, but a lot of it was after 7 years, they could hike up the rent, and all those people that moved in were gonna have to go anyway. And so what she called that was poverty pimping. So she's like anti that completely, which I understand. I agree with OG1, and as far as educating ourselves. My biggest thing is ignorance, which is lack of knowledge. We all have to continue to educate ourselves and understanding it. We fear that which we don't understand. We don't understand things, therefore we don't care about it. We don't fight for it. We don't get loud about it. Back in the day, a lot of people didn't know because you had to be position is 19th of the game. If you're not connected to certain people, you're not networking, you're not doing all that, you're not gonna know what's going on. Now we really don't have an excuse. We have social media. We have commercials, we have everything, we have word of mouth. So you gotta tap in, and we care when we've got people like Joanne Hardesty. She's been making a little bit of noise since I can say the 90s. My mom worked with her. But now people are hearing about her because she's making herself known. Like he said, we can run, but right now we gotta vote. We've got a lot of people moving in from red states. Oregon and Portland specifically is primed for a red flip. A lot of people are thinking that, no, we're so blue. No, we're not. A lot of these people are a lot more conservative, and a lot of people are a lot more cowardly than they want to admit, and they're voting red. And once that happens, things will get worse. As far as like they were saying, as far as the burst happening, in the next 5 to 10 years, none of this is sustainable. And I've heard a few realtors say that it's gonna burst. But what are we gonna do then? And that's what we have to focus on. Changing right now, voting, educating ourselves, connecting, networking, and especially people of color, we're loud. Make your voice known. Get out there, do something, make it happen, regardless if you receive criticism, backlash, anything like that. We gotta make today better for our next generations, for our babies, for our kids, for ourselves. And that's all I wanted to say. All right.
Thank you so much, Bree. All right, with that being said, let's make sure we stop by and shake Mr. Cornelius Ward's hand, grab yourself a DVD for $25. Utilize this DVD to create some social conversations amongst your families and amongst your friends. Again, this can happen in any city, but this is a great example of how it happened to ours, all right? So enjoy some music, enjoy some food and drinks, and thank you all for coming out tonight. Make sure to stop by the website, and that's www.ptownmedia.com. Like us on Facebook and support the movement. Thank you all.
pain.
I've not yet found any indication that there's something positive associated with gentrification.
And they're just tearing apart like stuff that represented our childhood, stuff that represented home for us.
There's 3 houses I can think of on this block that are known drug houses. I see it every day.
Gentrification? Yeah. I feel that might be happening here. It is happening here. You don't see it? Minority families going bye-bye.
So as far as the gentrification, I still say let it come. When I first moved here, the only white folks on the block went from 1 white occupied household to all white except 3. Damn.
We have families come in every day with a 30-day notice. The house has been sold. The landlord doubled the rent.
I just never thought my community would look like this. And it's not even my community anymore. I can't say that. Like, I don't know what this is. This is where I live, but it's not home.
Everything sells. There's a value for literally everything in Portland.
Working class, poor, lower middle class, there are very few neighborhoods that you can afford to live in this city.
You're losing the heart of the city when you start displacing people like me.
People are losing their housing faster than we can keep up.
It's not too late to make the next gentrification cycle better.
The fact that a number of folks had courage enough to stand up and to push back, I mean, it made all of the difference in the world.
I'm at a point in my life where I need to be around more brown folks. I have begun to feel so isolated and so alienated here in Portland that I cannot call this living. This is existing. There has to be more to my life than this.
Don't you start crying. Don't you dare. I'm not. Don't you dare, because you know it's for the better.
It's one of those things where there's that saying, if they come for me at night, they'll be coming for you in the morning.
How do we prevent this from happening again?